The views expressed in this episode, as with all episodes of Sounds Like a Cult, are solely host opinions and quoted allegations. The content here should not be taken as indisputable. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only.
What did I do to just... You've been manipulating all of us and using your daughters to buy you? Yes! Are you crazy? Are you crazy?
This is Sounds Like a Cult, a show about the modern day cults we all follow.
I'm Amanda Montell, author of the book Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism.
I'm Isa Medina, and I'm a comedian.
Every week on our show, we discuss a different zeitgeisty group that puts the cult in culture, from celebrity doctors to Starbucks, to try and answer the big question.
This group sounds like a cult, but is it really?
To join our cult and see culty memes and BTS pics, follow us on Instagram at Sounds Like a Cult Pod. I feel funny promoting my Instagram on this episode, but I am in the cult of Instagram, and you can find me there at Amanda_Montell.
You can also find me on Instagram at Isa Medina, ISAAMEDINAA. And I also am in the cult of Instagram, but famously don't have as many followers as Amanda. So if you guys want to give me a follow, that would be amazing. And feel free to check us out on YouTube, where you can watch our show, or hit us up on Patreon at patreon.com/soundslikeacult.
And their episodes are available ad-free. Were you trying to accuse me of being an Instagram cult leader? Because if so, I'm flattered.
Yeah, you are the Instagram cult leader.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I would actually argue that the Instagram cult leader is the subject of today's episode, because we're talking about the Cult of the Kardashians.
Do you want to stay more hydrated but need a little more oomph than water?
Yes.
Please check out Liquid IV. I love Liquid IV. It hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficiently than water alone.
Grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use our code CULT.
That's 25% off anything you order when you shop using promo code CULT at liquidiv.com. Okay, I have to tell my roommate about this because he's also stealing my Liquid IV.
As a vegetarian, I really appreciate the easy, healthy dishes that come from Daily Harvest.
Go to dailyharvest.com/cult for up to $40 off your first box. That's dailyharvest.com/cult for up to $40 off your first box.
Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp, easy and affordable online therapy. BetterHelp isn't some kind of like online Instagram fake therapist. They're real therapists, and I felt super supportive at the time when I used it.
Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/cult. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/cult for 10% off. Today's episode is sponsored by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer.
Honey is a free browser extension that helps you find coupons while shopping online. By downloading it, you could save a bunch of money and you'll be supporting this show.
Go to joinhoney.com/cult to get started for free. That's joinhoney.com/cult.
So you might think that this is one of our more lighthearted episodes, but you'd be wrong.
Yeah, it got pretty intense in our interview
with our guest.
We're going to interview Meg Indurti. She's a writer and comedian, and we got really in the weeds of like why the Kardashians are evil or good, and it turned into this whole conversation about capitalism.
This is the entire thesis of our show, right? Is that we're talking about groups that we all affiliate with on some level, but actually do have these more sinister ties to deeper cultish aspects of the culture, whether it's politics or beauty standards or sex.
And I feel like the reason we ended up going so big picture, like ultimately ended up talking about capitalism, was because the Kardashians have such a large influence that their umbrella covers everything.
I mean, there just are so fucking many of them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for one, like immediate family, they are a basketball team.
Seriously. I mean, if we're talking about sort of like cult-like media families, the one that instantly springs to mind for me is the Duggars, the subject of that TLC reality show, like 12 Kids and Counting, 13 Kids and Counting. The Kardashians are just like a really, really mainstream version of that. The Duggars belong to a fringy Christian sect called the Quiverfuls, but you could argue that the general influence that the Kardashians Kardashian has had over our beauty standards, over the way that we interact with each other, over the way that we interact with influencers and brands and celebrities is a religion in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, even over the way that we speak.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's crazy.
You'll have to stay tuned for the interview because there is a moment when Issa a little bit goes to bat for the Kardashians.
I do want to preface this episode by saying I did kind of give myself the role of devil's avocado, which is what we're going to call it, because I do not by any means ever want to be a devil's advocate. I'm a devil's avocado, and it's for the sake of the podcast. I wanted to make sure that we were looking at all sides of the argument because I feel like the Kardashians especially are this group of influencers who are constantly talked about and
shat on.
And it's usually on like one side of the spectrum. People either hate them or they love them. And so I was like, let's have a nuanced discussion about it.
We're not at all trying to shit on the Kardashians just for the sake of it. I mean, sure, I have intuitions that I disdain them and refuse to watch their shows and engage with them. But this is not a podcast about intuition. This is a podcast about analysis. And we're trying to understand where those intuitions about this is a cult even come from. Where do they stem from?
Yeah, and I do watch their shows. I feel like we have to get that out there. Okay, well, actually, I never watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but I did watch their latest show on Hulu. And then I was like running around being like, oh my God, Kim is such a boss. Yeah, go off. And then I was talking about it with Meg and she like went off on me on like all the reasons that they're bad. And I was like, we have to talk about this.
Yeah, you and Meg are friends offline, real life friends.
Real life.
We had been planning to do this show already. Then our loyalists were like, yeah, you absolutely have to do the Cult of the Kardashians. Cult spelled with a K, obviously. And you were like, I'm bringing Meg because the second I started defending Kim, she was like, they are toneless billionaires who've appropriated every culture to build their own clout. They are subtly having the most destructive influence over our entire culture. And I was like, yes, go off.
Yeah.
But actually, now that I think about it, I'm unearthing a repressed memory. That's a Teal Swan reference. No, I'm unearthing a repressed memory that I actually, too, have sort of inadvertently defended the Kardashians because in my first book, I go to bat for vocal fry, which is this vocal quality. That vocal quality is more often than not associated with the Kardashians style of sort of like blasé valley girly-ish delivery.
Yeah.
And I take issue with that because there is nothing inherently bad about vocal fry just because it happens to be noticed in the speech of young women. There's a lot of shit wrong with the Kardashians, but it just doesn't have to do with vocal fry.
That's true.
That's the least of their problems. There are a lot of different sides to the Cult of Kardashian story, and we got sort of big picture in this episode.
Yeah, we did.
There were some nitty-gritty elements that we know exist that we didn't have time to touch on. So if there's enough interest, we might do a part 2.
Yeah, we just want to say like right up front, there's no way we could cover every single aspect. We would have had to do like documentary style research and we just like haven't had the time. But if you guys have anything else you think like we need to look into more deeply, like if you think there's like one subtle culty aspect of the Kardashians, then DM us or comment on our posts and we'll do a part 2.
And that's true of every topic we cover because these topics could lend themselves to an entire 12 episode series in and of themselves. And we want to make sure that we're covering what is interesting to the people.
Yeah. I feel like it's nice to define who we're talking about at first, but we're talking about the Kardashians, like the Kardashian Jenner family. So it's like Kris, Kim, Khloe, Kourtney, Kylie, and Kendall.
This is another way that they're like the Duggars because the Duggars kids all have J names like Johanna and Josiah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is famously culty to name all of your children things that start with the same letter.
Yeah, and then there's Rob. Who like really isn't very active in the cult. So if you don't know, their brother Rob was named after the Kardashian family patriarch, their father, Robert Kardashian, who was a powerful lawyer in Hollywood, best known for representing O.J. Simpson in that infamous murder trial we all know about. So the family has always sort of been steeped in controversy. Robert, the father, passed away in 2003, but the Kardashian family's intense rise to fame really goes back to a sex tape of Kim's that was leaked around that same time period. Kim was pretty much a no-name at that point, but she was friends with Paris Hilton. At one point, she was even her assistant, and she really aspired to be a socialite like her. And thanks to the leadership of their mother, their momager, Kris Jenner, the family has marketed the living shit out of themselves in the years since. They've launched various businesses and partnerships, and now the collective family is worth over $2 billion.
Kris seriously capitalized on that sex tape attention, and it should be noted that Keeping Up with the Kardashians premiered on E! Only 8 months after that whole scandal, which honestly, like, way to make lemonade out of lemons. It's diabolical, and in a sense, you have to respect it.
First question that I think we should talk about really quickly before we talk to our guest is, like, who do you think is in the cult of the Kardashians? Like, do you think it's just those 5 girls and the mom, or do you think like it's the whole family, or do you think it's everyone on the show?
Like we often describe, I think there are cults within cults here, and I think everyone who's born into this family is automatically inducted into this cult, held to a beauty standard, expected to be public facing. I mean, the kids, it will be interesting to see what becomes of them. Like, will they defect in 20 years and be like, I was super fucked up, like an ex-Scientologist?
Yeah.
Will they become leaders themselves?
Yeah, we don't know. And it is one of those situations where, like, people have asked us, do we think like toxic families are cults? And I feel like, I don't know. That's not for me to say because it depends on the family. Like, your parents obviously control your finances. They control where you live. But something—
You literally need them.
You literally need them. You're literally a minor. But something that is new is like the lack of consent to become like a public figure. Privacy is something that you literally cannot take back. And these kids are born without privacy.
I think that lack of consent that family members have actually brings up an interesting point about who the true cult leader of the Kardashians is, because we talk about Kim a lot with our guests, but I actually think it's Kris, the mom. Like, she's, in my honest opinion, the true sort of narcissist puppet master of the whole operation. I mean, she's not only like queen bee momager vibes, she's also constantly pressuring all of her kids to procreate as much as possible, like spinning every precious life moment into a monetizable commodity, which is so fucking cult leaderish.
Yeah.
And I also think that, as the conformity of their K names suggests, the women born into the Kardashians play a more extreme role in the family cult than the men. And that is a trope. Like, women in classic cults are often held to a more repressive standard and expected to do more labor to recruit people into the fold. Here's a classic cult moment for you. In The Children of God, often referred to as a sort of Christian sex cult of the 1970s era, women were expected to engage in something called flirty fishing, where they'd be coerced to lure men they'd meet out in the wild into the cult by having sex with them. So bear with me making this connection, but to a less explicit degree, the women in the Kardashians are also expected to use their sexuality to attract fans in a way that Rob is not.
Classic cult.
There's definitely the cult of the family itself, and then there's the cult of all of their followers and supporters and viewers. Even people who don't follow or watch the show or anything like that are implicitly in the cult of the Kardashians because they have subtly and not so subtly shaped culture in such a radical, fucked up way.
Yeah. I think the people that are at the most dangerous part of the cult are people who are part of the extended family.
Oh, part family member, part follower.
Yeah, and it's these people who the family takes a liking to, and they start inviting them to the Christmas parties and to the holidays. And they are also influencers, and therefore their life and their income
and their worth
comes from the family. And like, if you're kicked out of that, you no longer have like an income revenue unless you like have built your platform enough yourself. One example is Jordan Woods, one of Kylie's ex-best friends, who was involved in a cheating scandal with Khloe's ex-husband, Tristan. And even though Jordan did make a mistake, the Kardashians were over the top vengeful about it and used every little bit of their power to try and silence her. I think it's just so insanely culty how betraying this family on any level, big or small, could ruin your life. It low-key reminds me of ex-Scientologists.
It really is so powerful when any celebrity at all sort of invites you to bathe in the glow of their light. I know like 3 half famous people And I myself feel like blessed when I get to go hang out with them because their gravity is just so compelling and it really draws you in and you really do feel chosen.
Yeah.
And the Kardashians being some of the most famous people alive, their gravity is like that of a black hole, you know?
Yeah.
I myself, knowing people who are like, don't quote me on this math, but like one bajillionth as famous as the Kardashians, I already feel like there would be exit costs if I stopped talking to those people. You know what I mean?
I would have exit costs if you stopped talking to those people. Something else that I think is really culty is their legal influence. Because of their money, they have so much power to take things offline. Like, do you remember when that picture of Khloe Kardashian was unedited, got online because her grandma accidentally posted it?
Yeah, her bikini pic that hadn't been face-tuned.
Yeah, her lawyers literally got it scrubbed from the internet in 2021. Like, how much money and power and influence do you have to be able to get something scrubbed from the internet? So imagine being their friend or being their family friend. Like, you are friends with someone who has like the power to end you.
Dude, 100%. So the exit costs are sky high. I keep making these celestial references, but I feel like it's the only way to communicate the stakes and the magnitude of the power that this Kardashian clan with a K holds. You know, like, because it's not just one person, it is this dynasty. And what's also terrifying is how quickly they were able to build it. Like, this isn't old money necessarily. Like,
they started off with money.
They started off wealthy, but this isn't like, I don't know, some sort of political cult that has roots that go back, 200, 300, 500 years. This is new money, baby. And the fact that they were able to just augment their collective wealth, not only wealth, but influence on the masses so quickly. Like, who knows where our culture will be in 10, 20 years because of them.
They've built that wealth so quickly. And I think that's why they kind of have like these big egos and these big heads that kind of lead them to have this us versus them mentality of like, don't fuck with my family or I'm going to fuck with you. Like, they say that on the show all the time.
How does this family still keep all these guys around? Like, once you're in, it's like the mob. You can't get out.
We have a very loyal, strong vibe in our family.
Yeah, and this is something else that's quite culty about them is that they create this illusion of populism. Like, I'm just like you. I really care about family. I was watching a video the other day analyzing the diets on the show Gilmore Girls. Don't ask. It was an algorithm thing. The person making that video, a nutritionist, was talking about how oftentimes people on screen will eat in order to humanize themselves because we all have to eat. And I feel like the Kardashians on their show do things that like regular humans do. They get into fights with their siblings. It's like celebrities. They're just like you. Like, they are imperfect and they create that illusion, which is very strategic, to mask the fact that they're nothing like the rest of us.
We should go out and we'll get a hot dog on a stick. You and I.
I wonder if they have like those arguments because like at the end of the day, they are running a business together. Of course, they're going to be like us versus them, but I bet you they have arguments, internally about like how much they're getting paid or how much airtime. I mean, their final season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, didn't watch it, but I did see a lot of clips on TikTok.
Yeah, I've never seen it either.
I refuse. I did watch the new one, as we know, but the old one ended because Kourtney was done with the show. She was like, I want to live my life and I don't want to do it in front of the cameras anymore. And now they're all executive producers on the show, so they all get to decide like how the show is edited to make them each look good.
Oh my God.
But I bet you Kendall is barely in the show and Kylie isn't in the show at all. So they probably get paid like different amounts of money. I wonder how close you can really feel to your family members when like you're making money off of them.
This whole episode just kept reminding me of Succession.
Yeah.
It's like the family on Succession creates this public image that everybody's like hunky-dory, or at least they try to, but behind those doors, they're going for the jugular.
Yeah.
And you have to speculate, allegedly. You have to speculate that it has to get bloody back there.
Yeah. I mean, there's literally scenes of them like hitting each other and stuff.
Part of that populist image, and we speak about this with our guest, is creating the impression that they're victims, that they're so innocent. and also getting really, really defensive whenever anybody questions them or accuses them of setting impossible beauty standards that are negatively affecting the mental health of young people. They just totally play innocent, which, I mean, we all play innocent in our everyday lives. It's what we do as humans. But when you have as much influence and clout as they have built, it starts to become not only problematic, but culty.
I think once you have like so much power and money and influence, like it's hard for something not to turn into a cult.
Totally.
You know?
I think the difference is that this is a cult that even if we don't choose to be in it, we're fucking in it.
Everyone is affected by like the repercussions of like the societal standards that the Kardashians inflict upon society.
Oh my God, that sounds like something I would say.
I am literally going off today.
We're going to chat with a brilliant guest.
My friend and comedian, Meg Indurti. She does stand-up. She's a writer. She's written for The New Yorker.
Fancy.
So fancy. And she's currently writing a book of short essays.
And I think you're really gonna enjoy it.
You want to tell our listeners who you are and what you do? I don't know why I asked it like that.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm in the front of a classroom right
I just
now.
like start off the combo.
Who I am and who I want to be. I'm Meg Indurti. Full name is Megana. I'm a stand-up comedian, humor writer. Came from Chicago. Now I live in LA. And I write for The New Yorker, contribute to The Onion. And I do stand-up everywhere. I produce a show right here in LA called The Big One. And yeah, that's me.
That's her, ladies
Glorious.
and gentlemen.
Okay, so can you please tell us about your relationship to the Kardashians?
Hatred.
Out of the gate.
Yeah, the Kardashians. I mean, I think despite my best efforts, I know a lot about them just because they're just on, what do you call it when they're on the side?
The periphery.
Peripheral.
Oh.
Peripheral.
I was like, yeah, rear view.
Neither of us should drive.
I made 12 U-turns to get here today.
You did, and we all survived. There's always something going on. There's like some sort of scandal, or they're attached to someone where there's a scandal, so it's just sort of like this thing that we are all sort of forced to know about.
Yeah.
Like someone once said that they're kind of our royal family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty
we
accurate.
actually mentioned that because we did an episode on the cult of the royal family.
Oh, yeah.
English people, by and large, are certain that the Kardashians are a bottom shelf royal family. But nonetheless, they do serve this sort of monarchical role in our society.
I kind of
They
think
do.
they're like a higher top shelf royal family in that they have more influence. Like the royal family is only relevant to like English people. No
Yeah.
one gives a crap about them. The royal family like pays to be in the Daily Mail. The Kardashians just like are everywhere.
I agree that they are sort of like everyone knows them in the world.
And they obviously started off by like paying in that same way. Like they invested a lot in their influence before they became like natural influencers.
I think part of it is also luck, right? They've also just sort of like from the beginning, like being attached to OJ, being attached to Ray J, and then Kanye, and then Caitlyn Jenner. Like,
Wait, do they all end in A?
oh my God, it's like I was I can start rapping.
OJ.
You're like, what's going on?
They're like, pop, pop.
Anyway, buy my album on SoundCloud. It's just all these like famous, like not even just like slightly famous, these like world famous people. They've always just sort of been attached to them. So they've always, and Paris Hilton too.
Yeah, like
she was like Paris Hilton's like friend.
Assistant, actually.
Assistant.
I mean, so the Kardashians like already were rich.
And we forget that.
Yeah, people really do be forgetting that
Because
because
she says some shit like, people just don't work hard anymore.
I have the best advice for women in business. Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
you grew up in Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
Yeah.
you already were like friends with Paris Hilton to the point where then you got to be her like friend /
Your
assistant.
dad was like
a
the
rich
fucking
lawyer.
And she's not the only celebrity, but like a lot of celebrities have zero understanding of how like the rest of the world actually lives.
Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of people get frustrated when they speak on it, because it's like you don't know
Yeah.
what it's like to not have health insurance or like have to work to live. So it's like really condescending
Yeah.
when you are like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Totally.
Of course.
I thought it was funny because we really wanted you on the podcast and like we were chatting and then we started talking about the Kardashians and I was on this high horse.
She was like,
I was
both
like,
sides.
No, I literally have been like watching the Kardashians on Hulu. So I've been consuming this Kardashian propaganda. So I was on this mentality of like, Kim Kardashian is actually a boss.
Whenever I would condemn them or not understand a reference, you would judge me like I had done something wrong.
I don't judge. Lies.
Wow, sounds like a cult.
Yeah. No, but like I was like, you know what? I don't like all of them, but I do think Kim is like a really hard worker and she's helped her whole family like get
Kim
to where
apologist.
she is. I don't think she's perfect, obviously, but I appreciate that she has kind of like lifted her whole family like up with her. But then we were in your kitchen and you were giving me kind of a similar look. You went on like a rant for like probably like 7.5 to 10 minutes. And I was just like, damn, do you want to come on the podcast?
I know that was like my audition. I was like, please let me out.
I know.
I think so much of Kim Kardashian's fame and all the Kardashians' fame has just been built on like stealing from other people.
Yeah.
Like they're called culture vultures, which I think is great. One, because it rhymes, and two, because it's accurate. Like they've been accused multiple times of like stealing from indie Black designers for their fashion spaces, but also just like everything in the way that they look. There's this really incredible New Yorker article called Instagram Face. She kind of like really dissects how we like borrow from like Latina women and South Asian women and like Black women, predominantly Black women in American culture, to sort of like borrow all of the assets of them, but then put it on like a white woman's body.
Yeah.
And that is like sort of the only way these features can be appreciated. And I think the Kardashians are like a kind of weird Black Mirror-y representation of that. They've done essentially everything but straight up blackface. Like they've like, you know,
I mean, they've done
overspray tanned.
like spray face,
Yeah,
dude.
they've done spray face. They've used really dark makeup, their features, their plastic surgery, the way that they dress, even like the people that they marry and attach themselves with.
Yeah.
Like Chloe is like, oh, I like have a fetish for Black men. It's like that's weird. Don't
gross.
say that.
All of history's most notorious, most dangerous cult leaders have also been culture vultures. Like Keith Raniere stole all his shit from Scientology. All New Age cult leaders steal their shit from Buddhism, Hinduism, evangelicalism. They do this sort of Frankensteinian thing where they pull all the most compelling bits from all the spiritual practices that people have flocked to over the years, and they create something quote unquote new, but really it's just something optimized to get people to flock.
Like Teal
like
Swan.
familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, like she took all the little bits that she likes and she put them together and was like, I've created something new. Classic cult.
And actually, speaking of appropriating from Black culture, the most notorious leader of all time, Jim Jones, calculatedly studied the mannerisms of Black civil rights leaders and spiritual leaders, from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Angela Davis to Father Divine. And he appealed to Black followers by co-opting that language as a way to suggest that he could be trusted. So honestly, this is a theme with cultish leaders.
What do you think would define the cult of the Kardashians? Like, who do you think is in it? Do you think it's like the family or the people who've been in the reality TV show?
The stands.
Or the stands?
I don't like ever want to bash reality TV. I understand why people like it. People in the cult of the Kardashians are like everybody who follows them on Instagram, and kind of like even the people who hate follow, I feel like
Totally.
Yeah.
kind of contribute to
I don't follow
Sometimes
any of them.
me
Contrary
neither.
to Devil's Avocado.
I don't follow any of them either, but at the same time, you can't escape their influence.
Yeah.
If you are on social media, you are in the
I
cult of the
actually
Kardashians.
never see them like on Instagram.
Oh,
or
neither do
anything
I, but I
around
see
them.
people who look like them, and that's enough.
Oh, okay.
Every time I feel insecure about my eyes not being a certain shape or my butt not being a certain size, that is the cult of the Kardashians rearing its ugly head.
100%. And I think Kim is incredibly hot. And
Yeah.
there's a part of me that's like jealous.
Do you think that their kids are like
In the cult.
In the cult? And is it like,
Not yet.
but I think they are. What do you think of the consent behind children being like public figures? Like all their kids are already
Yeah.
public figures.
Yeah.
And they
but,
don't get
like,
to choose that.
I guess like they're like physically in the cult. I don't know. Would that count as them being mentally in the cult? Because it's like maybe they grow up and are like, whoa, this is a fucked up family.
We are sometimes asked by listeners, do you think that toxic or powerful families can be cult-like. And I think definitely, because think about it, it's like a group that you can't leave because you depend on your parents for, everything. And they're bringing you up with certain standards, certain ethics, and the exit costs can be very high.
Yeah, I was thinking like exit costs because like if they do want to leave like the wealth of the family, they have to create their own wealth. And what's the only way they can if they're in an influencer family is to become an influencer. So they're like double in two cults.
Wow. That is something I feel like we'll see in our lifetime of just like at least one of them will be like, this whole thing is a ruse. Like they will like take it down from the inside.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That'll be interesting to watch.
The revolution of the Kardashians. Yeah. We're looking at you, North.
Honestly, I do have faith in North, if any of them, or Stormy.
Stormy.
There are so many reasons why we're all dehydrated. We're hungover. We're tired.
Yeah. I'm like staring at my coffee and water.
Yeah. It's hot. It's dry. We're in these rooms with recycled air.
Yeah. And famously, some of us drink alcohol.
Yes. And for that reason, it can be nice to have something even more hydrating than water. And that's why we are both legitimately, to our core, obsessed with Liquid IV.
Yeah. It's one of the many powders that I have every day. And I really do. I have it once a day. Being hydrated helps you so much with everything, having a clear head, being able to fall asleep. And for me, it's like I have one of these a day and like I know I'm at least getting like the baseline level of hydration that I should have.
For sure. And I am one of those people that like hates water. You know how all those fucking hipster ass motherfuckers will walk around with a Nalgene full of water and be like, I drink so much water.
Oh my God, especially like the ones that are the size of a baby.
Yes. I don't give a fuck about your water. I like my water to taste like something. And Liquid IV offers 10 refreshing flavors like Concord grape, lemon lime, pina colada, and tropical punch.
Yeah, their lemon lime and strawberry are really good.
It's so good. Liquid IV contains 5 essential vitamins, B3, B5, B6, B12. I was at least vitamin B12 deficient as fuck before Liquid IV, and vitamin C, of course. They also offer 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. So it's good for a workout.
Oh, and it's good for the world. Liquid IV is, no, seriously, they're on a mission to change the world. For every purchase, they donate a serving to someone in need. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 24 million servings globally, to populations that have less access to water.
How dare I laugh, because Liquid IV is truly just the loveliest product for so many reasons. You can grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco. We stay on Costco. Or you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use our code CULT at checkout.
That's 25% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code CULT at liquidiv.com.
At the end of what can feel like an endless workday, the last thing I want to do is cook dinner. But when your fridge is empty, that urge to order in and skip the cooking happens all too often, at least for me. But thanks to Daily Harvest, I don't have that takeout temptation anymore. Daily Harvest helps me keep my freezer fully stocked with options that are delivered right to my door, and they're delicious, nourishing, and ready in minutes.
Yes, they have delicious options for any time of day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and dessert. Everybody loves a sweet treat.
They even have lattes.
Yeah, and everything is built on organic fruits and vegetables, so you know you're getting fresh produce that then you put in your freezer so it stays fresh.
I love their smoothies. I never know what to put in a smoothie. Have you ever, oh my God, I saw on your Instagram story the other day, you made a smoothie and you were like, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, because I had been making Daily Harvest smoothies and then I ran out, and so I had to make a smoothie myself, and it was like, it just wasn't good.
But Daily Harvest takes all that hassle away. Avoid the takeout temptation and get Daily Harvest. Just go to dailyharvest.com/cult to get up to $40 off your first box.
That's dailyharvest.com/cult for up to $40 off your first box. dailyharvest.com/cult.
And use our code to support the show. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. Being as online as we are can be really stressful. These are intense times to be alive, and no matter what struggles you're going through, having an affordable licensed therapist on call can make all the difference.
Totally. How we care for our mind affects how we experience life in general, so it's super important to invest time and care into keeping them healthy. BetterHelp Online Therapy makes caring for your mental health more accessible than ever.
It's super easy and unintimidating to use. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, I was actually between therapists and I couldn't leave the house, obviously. And one of my favorite YouTubers actually recommended BetterHelp, and having someone to chat with over text when I looked really bad and sad, or over the phone, conveniently and affordably, just like BetterHelp affords you, really kind of saved me from totally spiraling out during that time.
BetterHelp offers video, phone, and even chat-only therapy sessions so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. You can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/cult. That's betterhelp.com/cult. Today's episode is sponsored by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer. You know when you're shopping online and you waste all this time hunting for promo codes to save money? I used to do it all the time. But thanks to Honey, you don't have to manually search for coupon codes anymore. It finds them for you.
Honey is this free shopping tool that you just download real quick to your browser, and whenever you're shopping online for clothes or furniture or food or literally anything you could be blowing a bunch of money on, or things that you actually need, it scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best ones it finds to your cart. I actually used it recently myself and saved 20% off buying this bougie swimsuit from an Instagram ad that I'm ashamed I actually added to cart and spent money on. But with Honey, I didn't spend as much as I would have. And it honestly felt like I'd won something because using Honey was free and took 0 seconds. It's also very convenient because you can use it on your phone, not just your desktop computer.
If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this show. I'd never recommend something I don't use. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/cult. That's joinhoney.com/cult.
What would you say is the number one cultiest thing about the influence of the Kardashians?
I would say it's the way that they've defined beauty. I know beauty shifts over time and it's always changing, but they've really kind of borrowed from every culture and ethnicity and kind of makeshifted themselves and become the most beautiful women on earth.
Yeah. And a lot of the surgery that they perpetuate is permanent expensive surgery. When they first got BBLs, they weren't common. And now people are going to South America to get cheap BBLs. And it's actually one of the most dangerous plastic surgeries and has the highest rate of death.
Oh, beauty standards have never been more impossible to meet. And at the same time, we're in this sort of faux body positivity era where it's you have to look like a Kardashian, but you can't express self-loathing if you don't.
Yeah.
So we're just caught in this mind fuck of an era. Speaking of the members of the family being in the cult themselves, they all got surgery to look like Kim.
Yeah, they did. And that was really sad, wasn't Kylie looked completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even the Kardashians don't look like Kardashians.
They don't. It's an impossible standard that they can't even live up to.
Yeah, I think on their new show, something I did notice was that I think there are literal beauty filters on them.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the verite.
Oh, there was this whole YouTube series where this guy kind of discusses Photoshop and all of that, and he uses Kylie Jenner's Instagram a lot to be this looks really good, but this is where you can spot that this was her stomach was pulled in and her neck, and it's oh my God, do you guys ever take a really good selfie and then you look at it later, you're I don't look like that.
Yeah.
It's that where it's this impossible standard that they can't even live up to.
Yeah, and they've even upped the ante in that they started to do it with motion picture. It's in film now. The filters are applicable to
it's so
live
uncanny.
action.
This sounds overdramatic, but I'm afraid to one day have a daughter who has to come of age in a culture made by the Kardashians.
Yeah, where that's just the norm. There's this really funny thing on Twitter that went viral where Kim posted something on her Instagram story and her hand was on it and she was oops, sorry for the pale hand. And Black Twitter was what do you mean pale hand? This is how you look. You just got a really intense spray tan.
She's so self-deluded.
Yeah, where I'm this is just your natural skin tone.
Oh my God.
Your face is not right.
With the Kardashians, what do you think is so dangerous about that?
Well, this girl boss feminism branding, it's they've essentially been really good chameleons of tapping in to the narrative of each year of being like, okay, this is how I can stay relevant. Now it's like really empowering to be a woman who's in business. So I'm going to like talk about that. And I'm also a busy mom. So I'm going to like talk about that. There's this like form of girl boss feminism where it's so palatable and it doesn't like really challenge the status quo. And when you like consolidate a revolutionary movement like that to like such a degree that it's mainstream,
That you can put it on merch.
yeah, when you can put like a pizza over patriarchy and dilute it to such a lesser degree that everyone's on board, it's no longer the thing that you're fighting for. And she does a lot of that in like the makeup that she sells, in the way that she defends herself when she gets criticism. She's like, women get a lot of hatred, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my gosh. Like when Kendall Jenner started producing like her own tequila and she got so much. Yeah. I think like a lot of Mexican people and Latinos in general were frustrated because her commercial, she was like riding a horse and she had like Mexican men around her and it was high key cultural appropriation. And she got so much shit for it on TikTok that then she went on Jimmy Fallon late night. They're so good at turning the narrative.
They're so good at being the victim.
Yes. And she turned the narrative and like she didn't even claim victimhood, but she changed the narrative to be like, you know, when I wanted to create my own business, I wanted to be a woman-led company. And I noticed that tequila companies are primarily led by men. And so I went into an industry where like women just weren't there. And I was like, yeah, bitch, but you also went into a Mexican industry.
Like, that's like Hillary Clinton being like, you know, I've noticed like it's only men bombing Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah,
I really want to do that.
You know, it reminds me so much of when Ziwe had that one guest on her show and they started having the like quote unquote oppression Olympics where like she asked him a question about banking and he's Jewish and he was like, what do you want to talk about banks for? And it was just like this hilarious.
So Adam Pauly.
Yeah. It was just this like hilarious spoof on like twisting the narrative to talk about how like you're actually in the oppressed seat.
I feel like anytime they get any criticism, they like don't address the actual criticism. Like they don't talk about blackfishing or like the fact that Kim like endorsed these like diet pills, diet lollipop thing. And like when people criticized her for that, she was just like, you know, we can all believe in whatever we want to believe. Like, you know, she just says very like slogan-y
diplomatic
things. Diplomatic political things.
And I think the thing that frustrates me the most about when Kim Kardashian or any of the Kardashians are diplomatic and like apolitical is that they'll be so apolitical on things that actually matter. But then when an election comes around, she'll endorse like Rick Caruso. Okay, so like you are literally taking a stance on actual politics, on an actual election. But then when people ask you a question about your ethics and your beliefs,
you'll be evasive.
Yeah.
This is like what took me from like, the Kardashians are annoying to like, I hate them. Their whole like prison reform thing that Kim did. Do you guys remember that? Like, she essentially worked with the Trump administration.
Oh, with the Trump administration.
Well, that's not the issue with it, right? Because I mean, I think there are issues with both administrations. To me, that's like the perfect example of what she does and what celebrities do when they think they're solving this problem, but they're completely misunderstanding the problem itself. Like she has this like New York Times article written about her, like where she's talking about like, oh yeah, it's really hard to run a business and free prisoners and be a mom. And it's like, wait, this is about you. And that's not what liberation is about. It's not about like your journey. It's about like liberating people. I looked up her net worth, $1.8 billion is her net worth. She is the problem. That sort of level of inequality is sort of what traps people in poverty and like what pushes people into crime and what pushes people into jail. And it's like she is the problem that she's trying to solve, but she's trying to solve it in like a way that doesn't actually help anyone.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, but it's like in one of the episodes of the new season, like she's writing on this whiteboard and being like, I need to get this man out of jail before his death sentence. And then in the next episode, she's going on her brand new private jet. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I think a lot of the evasiveness that we were talking about, her avoiding pointed questions, is very much connected to the fact that she and the whole family refuse to acknowledge the amount of power that they truly have over our entire society. Political power, beauty standards power, power to maintain and encourage racist behavior. Remember when the whole family on some reunion was asked, like, do you feel like you have a responsibility not to perpetuate unmeetable plastic surgery standards, and they were like, no, we don't feel responsible for that at all. It's like, yes, you are. You created this culture.
Do you think that you are promoting unattainable standards of beauty in any way?
No, I don't. Because I think we get up, we do the work, we work out.
We all really enjoy taking care of ourselves and being healthy. So I think if anything, the only thing we're really trying to represent is just being the most healthy version of yourself.
For me, it's also the doubling down of lying that they don't get plastic surgery or like denying it and saying that they just work out and that they eat healthy.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
You have a nutritionist, you have a plastic surgeon, you have like a dietitian,
you have a
photo
surrogate.
editor. Yeah.
You have 6 kids and you have that body, bitch.
You have $1 billion. Yeah, that all helps for
Yeah.
sure. There was like one statistic I learned that it was like 30% of people come in bringing in a photo of Kim for like their plastic surgery thing. People try to look like her. Like,
Yeah.
I really
She has
love what you
defined
said.
that Instagram face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I really love what you said about like them denying the power that they have, because it's like they have so much political power that we didn't elect them, but now she's working with the president to free prisoners. Like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah,
what?
that's
like,
not
she has so
democracy.
much political power, but while they have the power, they also play the victim.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like I'm a woman being criticized on the internet. Like, oh, like it's so hard being a business leader and a mom. And it's like, no, you're a billionaire.
Oh my God, we got a comment once because we said something critical of Kim in another episode, and someone said it was women bashing women. And I'm like, first of all, Kim Kardashian isn't a woman, she's an empire. She's literally a figurehead for a whole problematic mode of existence at this point. But also, how much of a cult-like interpretation of feminism is it that now we can't breathe a word of valid criticism, even of amoral, clout-chasing, greedy reality TV billionaires, just because our genders happen to overlap a little bit?
Maybe I'll be playing Devil's Advocate this
Let's go.
episode.
When a woman plays devil's advocate, it's called a devil's advocate.
Yeah.
A comedian.
Avocado. The way that they humanize themselves on their show really makes you empathize for them, because you see like all the hate comments that
That's
they
a
get, and
propaganda
like
thing.
it's such a propaganda thing, because it's this idea that like their life isn't perfect. Why do they feel comfortable showing off their wealth on TV like that? You know, like in 2022, there's like so much homelessness. The world is boiling and getting crazy, and like they feel comfortable showing that level of wealth only because they then turn the narrative and are like, yeah, but being rich like sucks. It's like that fake narrative that even if you get everything you want, you still won't be happy. I'm gonna call bullshit on that.
But also, like, we're not talking about happiness. We're talking about survival.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
flipping the narrative to be like, oh, my life is so hard. It's like your survival has been always and will always be sorted.
It's two things, right? It's like, yeah, like there's no amount of wealth that can protect you from like depression and like the reality of life, but that doesn't take away from the fact that that also affects people who aren't immensely wealthy.
Exactly.
Except you have the resources and the networks and the material benefits of like food, housing, water, shelter, health insurance,
Yeah.
so that you can actually like deal with those problems. So
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna play you a fucking violin when you like went to a private island over the pandemic to throw your birthday party and then posted about it on Twitter, and
Yeah.
then got mad that people roasted you. Like, of course I'm gonna
it's
make.
the getting
I'm gonna
mad
roast
for
you.
me. There was this scene where like Kim Kardashian on her latest season was like, for all you trolls out there like shitting on us, like I'm gonna find you and then she was like, well, I'm not gonna threaten you on national television. That's not what I'm gonna do. But she was like, stop, because that hurts our feelings. And I'm like, actually, that trolling is literally what pays your bills. So they have a lot of influence, and a lot of these influences can lead to like people having plastic surgery or like changing their face, or like even thinking that they themselves could be influencers maybe. What culty negative effect do you think this has on like people's like day-to-day lives? Like how bad do you think it could get?
I mean, I think it already is getting bad. They've sort of created like the influencer industry, this industry of like, oh, you don't like have to have a talent. Like you can just be an influencer. It's become like this self-fulfilling prophecy machine of like everyone feels like they have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like we're all like public personas. Like you also feel like you have to be hot on Instagram and you have to look a certain way. Like logically we can understand everything that the Kardashians have perpetuated, but also we still live in the society where we have to like participate and where beauty is currency, especially if you're like a woman or women identifying person. They created all these like standards now that we all have to follow. And that's like the page that we're all on.
Yeah.
Right? Or like we have to be on, right?
Yeah.
It's so destructive. Here's a fun stat for you. In 2019, a Bloomberg study reported that 98% of American middle and high schoolers reported wanting to be an influencer. 98%.
Yeah. A lot of people used to want to be like lawyers, doctors, and like space people, astronauts.
Space people.
I can't even remember what they're called anymore.
But now they like are literally want to be like YouTubers.
Oh yeah. In 2018, a study that was conducted in the US, the UK, and China found that 3 times as many kids wanted to be YouTubers as astronauts. And honestly, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I pretty directly blame the Kardashians for this cultural shift.
Yeah, I think you
definitely.
could pretty much draw it back to them. Can I read this quote?
Yeah.
It's by Charles Hamilton from his book Black Power, which is also by Kwame Ture. He says, "We are in an era of tremendous influence through the pop culture medium where many become politicized, not through long, hard study and organizing, but through the passionate portrayal of our struggle through emotional speeches, movies, and television. It complicates the politicization process. It is quick, intense, theatrical, and sincere, but it is not very likely deep and sustaining."
Yeah.
And I really like that last line where it's like theatrical and sincere, because it can be both. Like, it's not that I think all these people are like malicious or fake.
Yeah.
It's that
Those are real
theatrical and
emotions.
sincere, but then there's no substance behind it. Maybe not Kim herself, but the Kardashian culture and like sort of the machine that they created, like have created this culture where it's like everything's sort of very shallow
Yes.
Yeah.
and surface level, and we don't interact beyond that.
Yeah, and I think the danger of that is the fact that like people are so addicted to instant gratification that they think that advocacy and posting online is enough. But when it comes to like actual social and cultural change, you have to implement long-term policy movements, and you have to like be consistent in like maybe volunteering in the community or something.
Maybe leaving your house and getting off Instagram for 5 minutes.
Yeah, they have created a generation that is like so addicted to being online, and then on top of that they have so much power and influence that like at the snap of their fingers they could literally like control this country.
She's like a person who could like literally change a lot, like with homelessness, if she gave away like half of her wealth, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think it's even just about giving away her wealth, because it's not just about money. Like I think so many organizations are like so rich and they're trying to solve homelessness or different issues. It's these issues that are so complex, but she has also influence over people that could help with like grassroots movements kind of situation. And like that's the sad part for me, is that like you have so much power and you're not doing anything.
This is how I feel though. I also don't think she should be the one that should
Yeah.
do everything. And that's why I said money, because it's like she has enough money that she could give it to the people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people working towards like police and prison abolition in terms of like actually creating meaningful change.
And they know what they're doing.
And they know what they're doing, and they don't get like the New York Times headlines or the money. But she's created this trend of like, okay, I'm going to do like this bare minimum thing and get a lot of accolades and post about it and make it kind of like a self-fulfilling journey.
Yeah.
I'm going to like inspire everyone else.
This is where the boundaries between influencer and cult leader become really, really blurry, because we talk about this a lot. But when you start to claim expertise on every topic, from how your face should be structured to how to solve the prison industrial complex, babe, you're a cult leader. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Like, what is an influencer? It's someone who's telling you what to wear and telling you what eye cream to use, not someone who's telling you about policy in the most shallow Instagram carousel type way.
Okay, devil's avocado, and that's what we're gonna just start calling it, because I don't want to be a devil's advocate.
The devil's like, stop advocating.
I don't want to advocate for the devil, but I will avocado for the devil. Okay, devil's avocado. She is a public figure, so anything she does is inherently going to be with herself at the center of it. That's the only way to like get people to pay attention, is her to use her power of like her personal influence.
I disagree with that.
She needs to know her own lane. Stay in your lane.
But I'm not done with my personal avocado. I mean, devil's avocado. What she does really well is she does bring people on board with her and her team that like have been working on these issues for generations. Like she hasn't started her own organization. I think she's working on starting her own organization for the criminal justice work that she's done, but she's primarily in the past like couple years been working adjacent to other existing organizations. And I don't think she like makes her donations public, but she has like shared her Instagram with figures and organizations who like help with these kinds of issues.
You know, it's interesting. Cults have always arisen during times of broader societal turbulence, like in the 70s. So it's actually really no accident that now, in these chaotic modern times when we have so little trust in the powers that be, followers would turn to someone like capitalist queen Kim Kardashian, who 5 minutes ago was promoting her reality show and weight loss lollipops and lingerie, for what to do and think politically. You know, it's Kim's willingness to seize that power that's giving toxic savior complex prophet cult leader vibes to me.
For me, I don't even think that her working in the criminal justice space is the cultiest thing about her. I think for me, like the cultier and cultiest thing about her is the idea that she came from nothing and the idea that she like has built herself from the ground up, because it perpetuates this narrative that if you come from nothing, you too can get to where she is.
And if you don't get to where she is, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, then there's something
that's
wrong
like
with
the
you.
whole America, like
That's-
capitalistic
but
dream bullshit.
But she does it through this like map of her own success. And like in her, if you follow like her success, it's like she got plastic surgery. She did different things that like put her in the public spotlight that weren't necessarily like deemed as positive at the time. Like, you know, her sex tape leaked, then she went on TV to talk about it, then she got plastic surgery, then she dated a basketball player, then she divorced him, then she dated like a rapper, and then
Why do you know this biography so well?
I mean, it's just like who she's dated, it's like so public, but other people think they need to like follow that same map. And I think it's dangerous when people are getting literal plastic surgery so that they can like become influencers.
She's created like an army of Kim robots.
Yeah.
Essentially. Okay, but I still disagree with the first point that you made. I think the issue is that she has this power, and I think you can't solve the problem by like giving her more power.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like this, what I'm trying to say
yeah,
is
I
like
see.
the actual solution isn't this like individual victory, which I think is often the way that we're taught about stuff, because that's a very like American way to think about it, is like, oh, like this one individual person can change it. The only time that any like true progress has been made throughout history is through like collective action.
Yeah.
Often celebrities are politically underinformed and reactionary, and they're too invested in capitalism, because that's where their wealth and power comes, that they would never completely have solidarity with working class people.
I also think that social media emboldens people to be even more reactionary, because everything is just the instant gratification. Oh, now I'm an expert because of the Instagram carousel. Kim Kardashian claiming to have any kind of expertise or influence in this space and really capitalizing on that is further perpetuating that style of political engagement.
The solution to this stuff isn't like an overnight thing either, or like even like a quick thing. It's like so much of it is like fundamentally changing the way we live. It's this long, hard, arduous, annoying, not beautifully photographed process.
Right.
Okay, so I think the way that you're like talking about it makes total sense, and I agree. Like, I don't think we should be giving her more power. That's definitely not a solution. But I also think that's kind of thinking about it in like this zero-sum mindset, where like if she helps with this, just because she also gets more clout from it, then it's like a overall bad thing. Like, I think she's ultimately still helping people, you know what I mean?
But we didn't elect her.
But we don't elect nonprofits. And honestly, we don't elect most politicians.
That's true. But I mean, like, the only reason she has power is because she has money. We can't just like trust her opinions and morals to be on the same page as
I
us.
100% agree. Like, I don't trust her opinions. I don't trust her morals. But I do think that
A lot of people do, though.
I think the inherent problem with like American politics and government is that like we function on like a lobbyist mindset. Like it's like lobbyists.
Like an oligarchy.
An oligarchy.
Yeah.
Literally is like the problem. And like
It's like the NRA and Kim Kardashian.
exactly.
And everything.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like the way that I see it is that Kim Kardashian is now just another lobbyist. But at least she's trying to do like prison reform, and I don't think that makes her like a better person.
But she's not really, because it's like she's not really helping anything. Like freeing a few people from prison and doing it in like a high profile way isn't prison reform.
And that's the problem, is that she's creating this illusion that that's what activism is and that's what reform is.
And that's not activism at all. What she's doing isn't activism.
I think part of it is performative, but like I can't speak on like what her organization or what the organizations she's worked with have done specifically. But like you guys are speaking like hard and true fact as though like she's not helping like push policy reform forward. Like I don't know what specifically she's doing about it, but like do you know for a fact that like she's not helping like long-term policy reform in the criminal justice system?
I think if I know enough about prison and police abolition to understand the long-term goal is to ultimately get to abolish the police and prisons, right? That's the ultimate goal. But part of doing that is redistributing our funds, less from the police and military and more towards healthcare, schools, jobs, housing. I don't know beyond her like freeing some people from prison and like saying that she wants to do more of that. I think what she's doing is sort of like individualizing a lot of the issue, where she's really like this person. So she's curating like characters out of these people of like, this person deserves to be free. So then she's still buying into this narrative that like some people deserve to be in prison, some people don't. Some people made these choices and other people don't. And so she doesn't fully understand the reason we have jails, the reason we have prisons, or like the entire mindset of it. Like she's still very much like perpetuating the system. So I don't know what specifically her organization is doing towards like the long-term goal, but I know there's a lot of organizations that are working towards that.
Okay, so that's the fundamental point that you guys have both made. But how is it against? How does it go against, though?
Because her ultimate goal isn't like prison police abolition. It's to like get the people that she thinks deserves to be out of jail.
And also, I just want to say, like, I'm asking these questions to like keep it interesting because everyone shits on the Kardashians all the time. Like, we know they're not perfect, but like, I think you made a really good point about how like her gaining more power through advocating for criminal justice is bad because now she's gaining power in the political space as well. If the effect of that is helping a couple people like along the way, do you think that like the negative benefits of her gaining political power outweigh the positive work that she's doing in the space?
I think that's a really tough question because it's like, no, but I think we use that as an excuse all the time to push marginal reform. The lesser of two evils is like the way that America votes and the way America does everything. And it's sort of like a way that we justify sort of like never making an actual like profound radical change. Yeah. And so that's a tough thing to answer. Like that's hard because it's like, how do you define positive gain versus everyone? So many people would have different definitions of that.
To bring it back to like the cultishness aspect, I'm curious to know from both of you, and maybe even I myself will weigh in, what role do we think Kim Kardashian should be playing as an influencer in this society in a way that would make it like a live your life level cult instead of something more destructive? Like what should her lane be?
It's not my place to say what they should do, but as long as they're transparent about where their wealth comes from, like where they started, their plastic surgery, like all the things that make them who they are, then their followers can make an informed decision on choosing to buy their products or to do what they say.
But I don't think they would ever do that because that completely shatters their brand and image.
Of course.
Part of the whole reason people buy into the Kardashians is because they're these like aspirational, like, this is who I want to be. I want to have this super skinny waist and huge ass, giant tits, date the hottest person, have like biracial children because now it's like cool to be black. Yeah. Their brand keeps them from being themselves, which is also like in a way I feel bad for them.
Well, that's why I'm saying like my answer to that question
is that the Kardashians can't exist anymore, basically.
No, it's not that the Kardashians can't exist anymore, because if tomorrow they decided to be transparent, they would still have the following that they have. They might just not have as heavy of an influence because people would have to understand like what they're getting themselves into. But it's like, I think that's their most destructive aspect.
I don't think we can go back. I think if even tomorrow they were like, yeah, I've had all this plastic surgery and this is where we came from, like the damage is done.
What do you think that they should do with their power?
Like in the smallest version of it, I think they should definitely not go into any political situation. I think that in general that celebrities shouldn't do that. I'm not defending politicians by any means, but I think the reason that someone like Kim Kardashian, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all of these people, the only reason they have power is because of money. And that money means that they make decisions for all of us without us weighing in on them. But some of these decisions like have ramifications for the whole world. Like Bill Gates' decision about the vaccines like affected who could get the COVID vaccine.
I agree. So I
mean,
he's
like best case scenario, right?
No,
of like not an insane person.
This is the thing, is like we stand on the same side of the political spectrum. Like I agree with everything 100%. You're saying. I just feel like we're already like in this capitalist society. I don't think that people with money should have influence over politics, but that's just the way it is, and it's never
But
going
I think
to
we have to change that.
Yeah.
How do we change it without money,
I don't
though?
think you can. I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
I know.
That could go on forever. There's a really great academic essay by Rosa Luxemburg that's Reform or Revolution. And she says reform is the means, revolution is the end. People were like, well, let's reform slavery. Let's reform the monarchy. Like that was like the suggested solution forever until there was a revolution to get rid of it. And I think that is the ultimate solution.
I just have to appreciate how like this is an episode on the cult of the Kardashians.
It became about capitalism.
And it became about like capitalism and policy. And I think that just really says a lot about how cultish a society we live in, that these boundaries are so blurry, and it's important to talk about how blurry those boundaries have become. I would like to lighten the mood a little bit and play a game. The game is a Kardashian-themed 2 truths and a lie. We'll read 3 facts in scare quotes. One of them is a lie, and you'll have to identify which.
Okay. When Kourtney was a teenager, she told her family that she wanted to have enough kids one day to start a cult. Kim was denied a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame because she wasn't the right category of celebrity. And Khloe once competed on Donald Trump's Celebrity Apprentice.
Is the second one the lie?
No,
It's the first one.
Really?
The cult one. She
Okay.
didn't say that.
Yeah, the second one, she was denied a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. A spokesperson for the Hollywood Walk of Fame told the New York Daily News in 2013, "We don't have a category for reality stars. The committee would be happy to consider reality stars if and when they get nominated to win an Emmy, Oscar, Grammy, or other major award."
And you know, actually, that makes sense because I feel like their whole vendetta, like on growing bigger and bigger, is to like be deemed like a certain category of celebrity.
They want to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
That's sort of
Yeah.
her being
It's
like,
like,
I'm going to work in
They're
the
so
White
obsessed
House.
with being taken seriously. I'm like, you're literally a billionaire, babes.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do you
that's-
care
They'll never have that.
Yeah, and that's
but-
the chip on her shoulder, and all these cult leaders have one.
Yeah, but I think they're trying to get an Emmy with their new show, and that's why there was like an episode, I'll tell you because I watched it. Chris is like in her office, and Chloe's like, what is that? Why do you have an Emmy? And she's like, I bought it. She's like, I bought the Emmy because you have to fake it
They
until
really
you
think
make
they can
it.
buy everything.
And then I think they're trying to get a reality TV Emmy from the Hulu show.
I love how you called that whole thing a vendetta, because I think you might have meant crusade, but vendetta is an even better way of describing it, because there is like
So true.
there is an energy of vengefulness behind everything they do somehow.
Yeah.
That's the one thing celebrities can't buy, coolness.
You
And
can't.
We can always roast them on Twitter, and they can never take that from us.
Yeah.
Second 2 truths and a lie. Here are your 3 quote unquote facts. Number 1, Kim only wears a bikini in public when it's overcast to hide her cellulite from paparazzi. Number 2, Kim Kardashian once admitted that she hopes her daughters get plastic surgery so they can look more related to her. Number 3, Kim's last will and testament includes instructions about how she wants her hair, nails, and makeup done if she ever becomes a vegetable.
Okay, I really hope number 2 is a lie.
Yeah.
That's the lie.
Okay, I'm like, that's even fucked up for her.
Yeah.
The last true truths and a lie. 1. The original purpose of Keeping Up with the Kardashians was to drive business to the family's stores, Dash and Smooch. 2. Anyone who enters Kris Jenner's house has to sign an NDA. 3. Kris's birth name is actually spelled with a C.
The first one is a lie.
No.
I'm really glad that you thought that the first one was a lie, because per cultishness, the subject of this podcast, I think this highlights the fact that like we think of cult leaders, even cult-ish leaders like the Kardashians, as these evil geniuses who had a master plan from the start.
Yeah.
But really, they're just these opportunists who started just being like, I want to up the publicity for my stores, and ended up ruling the world.
Yeah. And they say things like, if you get a no, you're not asking the right person. Like, and because they are literally opportunists and they won't stop until they get what they want.
And they'll never get what they want.
And they'll never, because there'll always be something else that they can't have.
Yeah.
I can't wait till like Elon Musk loads up a spaceship with all these people and they're like, we're getting out of here. And then
Like in Don't Look Up.
Yeah, like 100% that's what's going to happen.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being on this admittedly tense but really productive episode.
I love having these kinds of discussions.
Yeah, I was like, did I do something wrong?
No,
Yeah.
sorry, I get heated.
No,
Yeah.
that was fun for me
I am
too.
nothing
I
after
enjoyed
all.
it. I enjoyed it.
Okay,
I love this discussion.
Thank God it was you. If people want to keep up with your work, where can they find you?
Ooh, Instagram is where I mostly post of. Meg Indurti. Should I spell that?
Yeah.
MEGINDURTI. And also my website, which is megindurti.com.
And she writes for The New Yorker.
Yeah, she's literate.
So, Issa, out of the 3 cult categories, live your life, watch your back, and get the fuck out. What do you think about the Cult of the Kardashians?
I feel like since I've been playing Devil's Avocado, everyone's going to be like, you're going to think it's a live your life. I think it's a watch your back. I mean, I literally watched their show on Hulu and was influenced so much by just one season. Mm-hmm. Their propaganda, if they're good at one thing, it's production, baby. Kudos to their producers because they know what they're doing. Like, they really create like an engaging show that makes you believe what they're saying. But I think the reason I enjoyed it this season was because it was like pretty much scripted. Like, it's so fake. I watched it like as though it was a scripted show.
All of the arguments that you're making right now lend themselves to my verdict, which would be a get the fuck out.
No. I think it's a watch your back, a high watch your back, simply because I'm in it. But I don't follow them. I don't not follow them to like not hate follow them. I literally just like don't think about them. I don't care about them. It's just like I watched their show when I like was really tired and hungry and I just ordered a sandwich. You know?
I know. I don't watch or engage with them either, but regarding some of the points that we made with our guests, they are inescapable.
They are inescapable.
Much like a black hole.
But I feel like if we were to give them like a get the fuck out, society would be like already so much more fucked than it is. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's unfair to give.
Really?
To be a get the fuck out, I think they would have to start like scamming people for their money, like putting people in like literal danger that like wasn't
on purpose.
On purpose.
I think they are actually putting a lot of people in danger,
but from a distance.
Yeah, no, I don't think that they are intentionally, diabolically hurting anyone, but I think they are so ignorant or in denial of the power that they wield, much of which happens to have extremely destructive consequences, that I think it's a net negative.
But just because it's a negative, and I agree, I think it's negative, but I don't think that makes them like get the fuck out.
I think it was funny when you said, I think it's a watch your back because I'm in it. And I know it was a joke, but I think that actually does highlight the fact that it is a whole lot harder to evaluate a group that you engage with because you want to, sort of justify your engagement with it.
I will say there are nuances though. I think their kids, they're get the fuck out. I think the family is get the fuck out. If a family has like that much power and influence over you, it's like not healthy. And unless they literally are having these conversations like with their kids being like, you don't have to do this, you don't have to be in the show, then it is really dangerous to like put your kids on this like platform, like on this level of a platform. You know what I mean?
I do. And I agree that the stakes are higher for the children because they're in actual like physical proximity to these people. But the reason why I'm leaning get the fuck out is because I think everyone's life would improve if we boycotted the Kardashians.
I think someone else would take their place.
I think that's kind of fatalistic because the Kardashians, I think, are special.
I do think they're special, but I also know that like historically, they're not the only ones who have like stolen from like black or brown culture, like
definitely
people
not.
have been doing that for generations.
But think of the scale.
Someone else would have done that.
I don't believe that necessarily and fatalistically someone else would have built the cult that the Kardashians have built. But it is hard to say. It is impossible to say. And I think it's all right to land on a slightly mismatched verdict.
No, it's literally not. I'm ending this right now. No,
we are ending it right now.
Yeah, this episode is ending.
This is obviously incredibly subjective subject matter.
Yeah.
In the way that you said, I think it's a watch your back because I'm in it. It's easy enough for me to say it's a get the fuck out because I actively avoid
dislike it too.
Yeah.
You actively dislike it.
Yeah, I
as
actively
well.
dislike it.
I guess there's like different levels of followers
Yeah.
and different levels of like being a part of the cult. Like if we're talking about society in general, I think society should watch their back.
Yes, so it's not the sort of thing where the Kardashians need to be banished to Siberia and should be like imprisoned in the way that Keith Raniere was imprisoned.
I just think we just need to be more aware, and I think we are getting there because people are becoming like more
cognizant of the fact that celebrities are not religious, spiritual, self-help geniuses.
Yeah, I think everyone just like needs to be aware that like of the consequences of like what their takes.
Of the cult-like influence that exists everywhere, you know? Fair enough. High level, watch your back.
I convinced you.
Okay, high level, watch your back. That is our show.
Thanks for listening.
We're going to be back in the new cult next week.
But in the meantime,
stay culty.
But not too culty.
Sounds Like a Cult is created, hosted, and produced by Amanda Montel and Issa Medina. Kate Elizabeth is our editor.
Our podcast studio is All Things Comedy, and our theme music is by Casey Kolb. Thank you to our intern/production assistant, Noemi Griffin. Subscribe to Sounds Like a Cult wherever you get your podcasts, so you never miss an episode.
And if you like our show, feel free to give us a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/soundslikeacult.